Hello and happy Monday. Today's workout is going to be a back and shoulder workout. Because of my schedule on Mondays, I've noticed that having a shorter, quicker workout is better on this day, and then my longer workouts are on Tuesday, Thursday. So today is going to be a quick but still very effective upper body workout, focusing mainly on my back and shoulders, and I'm super excited to take you guys through it. So without further ado, let's get this week started. To begin, we are going to be doing a barbell push press. If you're not yet ready to use the barbell, don't worry. If your gym has preloaded barbells or preloaded weights, that would be what I recommend starting with. And if you have neither of those or you're just not comfortable with this movement yet with a straight bar, you guys can also just substitute for a seated dumbbell shoulder press. But for this movement, what's going to differentiate it between a push press versus an overhead press is going to be all in that knee bend there. So as you guys see, as I come down, I bend the knees and then I power through and I push up. This is different from an overhead press where you're going to keep knees locked out and you're mainly just driving that motion through the shoulders. So I'm doing this one, it's more of an explosive movement, which is a little bit more of my focus with this program, is more full body explosion power movements as opposed to more static movements that I have been doing. This is a challenge for me. It's something I can't really load super heavy. So by the end of the program, I'm hoping to be able to add some weight on the bar, but I really want to focus on form and technique and making sure that my core stays tight throughout this and I'm not rounding that low back. Now we're going into a pendlay row. If you're not comfortable with this, you guys can just sub for a normal bent over row. Here, the key differences between a normal bent over row are going to be one, that you're resetting the bar on the ground between each rep to really maintain control and increase strength through that range. And instead of pulling towards your hips like you would a barbell bent over row, we're pulling more towards the heart, or for me, the end of my sports bra, ensuring not to shrug with that upper body and really having to focus on getting those lats packed between each rep. Continuing with some back here, we're going to be doing some lat pull downs. I like to hold the attachment where it starts to curve out, and I also like to hold without using my thumbs because personally I find when I hold with my full fist, sometimes I'm recruiting more of my arms and my forearms than my back. So then I like to think about driving my elbows towards my back pockets, really getting a good squeeze at that end range and not shrugging here as well to ensure that we are focusing on those back muscles. I also wanted to include this front view so you guys could see where you should be pulling towards and how your back should be. So I like to have a slight lean backwards as the bar is coming down so it can meet my heart or my chest, and obviously moving your head out of the way so that the bar path can be straight up and down and it doesn't hit you in the face as you're doing it. So here's how it should look from both angles. Now back to those shoulders, I'm doing something a little different here. So I'm using the ankle attachment strap that I would typically wrap around my ankle to do kickbacks, and I'm actually using that and wrapping it around my forearm or wrist area. That way, instead of having to hold a D handle, I'm actually just pulling up and doing lateral raises this way. You can absolutely still hold a D handle. I just noticed that it would bring my wrist into a position that was a bit uncomfortable and also made it a little bit harder to isolate just the shoulder. This is absolutely killer. I love this variation, but obviously you guys can also stick to just doing a traditional dumbbell raise as well. Now we're going to go into some cable lat pullovers or straight arm pull downs, and you guys can use either a straight bar attachment or a rope attachment. My gym has this fun one that makes it so I don't have to grip anything. Again, really nice for the wrists, but just use whichever is available to you. You want to have a slight hinge at the hips, leaning forward, keeping core braced. Arms are going to stay straight throughout the movement, and as you get to that bottom range where you're driving hands down towards your hips is where the lats are going to be contracted the most, so you want to focus on that end range. Finishing off with face pulls, we're going to be using the rope cable attachment here. You want to grip the end of the rope, thinking about if you were pointing to yourself with both thumbs, that's how you would be holding on with that overhand grip. Then you're going to be pulling the attachment towards your eye gaze, so I like to stare right in the middle of that attachment as it comes towards my forehead. Make sure you don't hit yourself in the forehead, and then your elbows want to be driving outward, so you're not pulling down where they're coming down towards your hips. You want to pull them out, creating a straight line between your shoulder joint all the way out to your elbow at that end range. Hello and happy Tuesday. Today's workout is going to be a lower body day. Today's focus is going to be mainly on the quads and hamstrings, so that's the key focus with all the exercises today, but obviously with a lot of movements we're going to be hitting the full leg muscle groups. Those are just the emphasis of today. Very excited about today's workout. You guys are going to see some different things from me, some different movements, maybe bringing some movements back as well as some new things. So very excited to take you guys through it, and let's go ahead and get a good little leg day in. We are starting this workout strong on the hack squat machine. No weight, just warming up. My hack squat weighs 135 pounds without any weight, so it's really not a warm up. You want to make sure you properly warm up and know how much your machine itself weighs. Here, what my goal is to ensure that I keep my core braced and I really work through the full range of motion, driving through those quads. Toes are slightly pointed outwards. You guys can't see the platform from here, but I have more of a wide stance to ensure not too much pressure is going on my knees. I like to do a set with no weight before going into my weighted sets here, which I did 3 sets of 8. If your gym doesn't have a hack squat, do not fear. You guys can do heel elevated goblet squats. You guys can do pit shark. You can do barbell. I love this because I don't really have to set anything up and I can be lazy and just use the machine. But it does have a greater emphasis on those quads because instead of me having to worry about the stability and balance of, let's say, a barbell on my back, I have the balance and stability through the machine so that I can focus on really working through those quad muscles as well as working through bracing but not having to worry about, balance and things like that. Since we're doing only 3 sets of 8, try to challenge yourself with the weight there as well as with the weight on this next exercise, which is brand new in my routine. It's a banded RDL. I've been loving it. So we are adding vertical banding here. I wanted to keep this clip of how I actually set up so you guys could see how to do it. You're going to layer a band over the top, making sure that it's equal resistance right to left. You're going to step on that band and then you're going to pick up the barbell, get into position there. This is going to add some vertical tension, which is going to be helpful in making you have to worry about your bar path, so straight up and down. It's also going to give a little bit more resistance, especially through that eccentric, but also as you're powering up so that you have to focus on that explosive lockout at the top of the movement. You absolutely do not have to add a band to these. If you're a beginner or someone that's not super confident in your RDL form, I wouldn't recommend adding a band. I'd really focus on just your form by itself, then add this as a progression. And clearly I'm having so much fun with this band that I decided to do another new movement in my routine with it. So we're plopping that band on the ground and then we're popping a plate on top of it, making sure that we again have equal tension from right to left. Then using that band, stepping on top of the plate, I now have some added resistance but also added stability. So what I'm doing is a reverse lunge on the plate and then a knee drive at the top of the movement. So this is going to again work on that tension as we're coming up into full extension here. And then the knee drive is also going to work on obviously power output, balance, as well as working a little bit through that hip flexor. So this movement is great. It's explosive, it's powerful, and it's one that I really have to concentrate on what I'm doing throughout, which I really wanted in my routine. I feel like before I was just doing lunges, going through the motions, whereas this, I really have to focus on my balance. As you guys can see, I didn't want to take out parts where, my balance wasn't good because I wanted you guys to see this is a harder movement. It is harder to stabilize, and it is a great thing that you can do to challenge yourself, especially if you're an athlete or someone who does dual sports. These kinds of movements are great for you. If this isn't really your vibe, it's not really your goals, you guys can just do a normal lunge variation as well in your routine. Now to further toast those quads, we are doing leg extensions, and when I tell you guys 2 by 20 felt like a lifetime. By the time I got to 15, I wanted to cry, but we still had 5 more to push through. So instead of doing, just traditional 4 sets of 10, 3 sets of 10 leg extensions where maybe you're not feeling super challenged, if you want to try something different, try these. 2 sets of 20 will literally kick your butt in the best way. So obviously you don't have to go at your heaviest weight. I went at a little bit more of a moderate weight here, one that obviously I could do for 20 reps, and really toasted those quads out. And the reason I opted for this is because before I was doing, different complexes or I was just doing basic extensions, I wanted something different, something challenging, and this was definitely it. So give it a shot. And then we're going straight into single leg hamstring curls. I have noticed severe weakness with my hamstrings in the shortened position. I'm not sure if it stems from my ACL surgery that I had and the fact that, I took a graft from there, or if it's really just because I never really do a ton in the shortened position. So I want to get better at doing them. So basically what we're doing here on the hamstring curl machine is driving heel to butt. As we get that heel towards our butt, that is where our hamstrings are going to be most contracted. My gym's machine here is obviously sitting up like this, but a lot of machines are actually going to be laying either flat on your stomach or seated and then driving heels towards your butt that way. So all are perfect and all are feasible. I'm doing single leg because I do notice that my right is even weaker than my left, so I like to do them separately, but you could do both at the same time as well. But just ensure to kind of find things that you're weak at and actually work through working and increasing your strength on them, or else they'll just stay weak and hinder you. So now we're going into our burnout, which is, guys, this is criminal. It's offensive. It's terrible. It's a prisoner hold drop set. So prisoner holds, essentially what they are is going to be a static reverse lunge, holding as long as you can. They call them prisoner holds because you're going to be holding your hands overhead as I'm doing here, like you would if you were taken prisoner. But to make it a little harder, what I did is I took some weights. I hold the weights out next to me until I can't any longer, drop the weights, and then push myself to hold up in the prisoner hold body weight for as long as I can until my leg literally shakes and gives out. Then I go ahead and I do it on the other side. And so essentially the setup here is going down into a reverse lunge, holding that isometric hold. And the reason that we do this is because we don't typically work our legs, our muscles in isometric holds often. Often we're obviously always in motion. So this is a great way to burn them out and work on their fatigue and their endurance in this static positioning. So that's all for today's workout. So yesterday was Wednesday, and Wednesday I basically worked all day long, and then I have made it a goal for myself to do a walk on days that I call rest days so that they're not just me rotting in my bed once I get home. So I went on a 2.5 mile walk with my mom yesterday. We're going to try to keep that into a little tradition, at least until it gets super cold, and then see from there. But felt good to still get moving, get active, as opposed to just lay around all day. So that's what I did yesterday. Didn't obviously film anything for it. Today is going to be a full body day. I'm very excited. I haven't had a full body day in my routine ever, honestly, I don't think. So this is something very different. I'm gonna have some interval sprinting in here. I'm gonna have just a lot of new different moves that I think are gonna be really challenging for me. But that's the whole point. I wanted this day to be a day where, I'm out of my comfort zone doing new things, not going through the motions and really having to focus on the things that I'm doing. So I'm excited to show you guys them. Not going to be a pro at them by any means, but that's kind of the point. So yeah, we will hop into this workout now. To start off this workout, I did interval sprints. So the way that I did them is I wanted to ensure that I sprinted for 6 rounds of 30 seconds, and then I took whatever breaks I needed between to just casually walk on the treadmill. I swore I was sprinting fast, you guys. This was 8. I swore I was like literally going so fast. I'm watching this back and I'm like, damn, I'm not going that fast, but that's okay because we will work towards going faster as we go. But my goal here is obviously just to really challenge myself, do something different. I really don't ever run, so trying to add a little bit of sprinting into my routine. And that's what we started with. Now we're going into the weight training side of things. So we're starting off with our first superset of many on this workout day, starting off with inverted rows here. So we are gripping a little wider than shoulder width apart. I keep my feet/heels on the floor with my knees bent. If you want to start to make this harder for yourself, you can do straight legs or even elevate your feet, but this is plenty hard for me. Then we're just pulling our chest or our heart to the bar. Then we are going straight into a shoulder exercise. This is going to be a single arm kettlebell press. So what you want to do here is you actually want to take a kettlebell and you want to flip it upside down and grip it in a neutral grip. And the reason we're doing it upside down is because it really challenges the stability of the exercise and really makes you need to focus on the balance of that kettlebell. This side view, I think, helps you get a better perspective of how I'm holding it personally. Knuckles up, think about punching the sky. This exercise is going to be more about stability than it's going to be about the weight use. So I'm really only using a 10-pound kettlebell here. As you guys can see, I have to restabilize as that kettlebell is moving, keeping my core tight. And again, just a different challenging exercise. On the topic of challenging exercises, this one is unreal. So this is going to be a single leg Pallof press. If you've never done a Pallof press before, I would recommend doing double leg to start out to get an understanding of how this works. So from, the optics of it, watching someone else do it, it looks ridiculously easy, but you will feel your core working while you're doing this movement. It's one of my favorite ones for activating the core, one that we give a lot of clients when we're at our PT clinic. So what you want to do here is you want to find the right amount of max tension, stepping out, and then you're also going to be pressing that band away from you. So here what I did is I found where I needed to be and I began pressing out. As you can see, if you start to waver or not feel steady, that means that you're at too high of a tension. You just might need to step in closer to the band a little bit. I do a few pulsing presses, and then on my last one, I'm just doing a hold as long as I can. This exercise is great because it forces your core to engage in order to keep your arms straight and keep that band out in front of you. Again, Don't do single leg if you don't feel comfortable with it or if it doesn't feel natural for you. Just stick to double leg and you can progress that way as well. Then right after that, I went into hanging knee tucks, which guys, these are an exercise I would never do because I'm clearly not great at them. You can see my body swaying so much. My friend Abby had me do them with her when I was in LA and I was like humiliated. I was like, I literally cannot do this. So we're going to get better at them. We're going to get a strong core. We're doing things to challenge ourselves. So you just want to be hanging here. Then you want to be driving knees up to the chest, getting that core nice and engaged. Then we're going into a calf raise complex here. So I really don't do calves a ton in my routine, but I want to try to do them a little bit more consistently. So here I'm doing double leg calf raises first at a slight elevation. The elevation is just to get a more full range of motion, more stretch throughout those calves. Once you're at the top range where you're on your tippy toes is where your calves are going to be worked at their highest tension. So adding a slight pause at the top wouldn't hurt if you feel like any of the progressions you're doing are a little too easy. So what I did here is I'm doing 10 body weight double leg straight into 5 single leg. After that single leg, putting both toes down again and doing 10 more double leg to really toast off those calves. I did this for 2 different rounds. You could add a round, you can add weight, you can add resistance, you can do anything to make it harder, but for me, this is all the challenge I needed considering my calves were on fire and are still sore today. We are finishing off this full body day with yet another superset. This is going to be antagonist muscle groups that we are working. I'm doing this on the cable machine. You guys can also just do this with dumbbells as well if you're not comfortable on the cable machine. So what we're doing is rope cable bicep curls. So we are doing 10 bicep curls. Once we get to that end range at the top of that last curl, we're going to be doing an isometric hold for 5 seconds where the contraction is highest, then coming down. Then what I'm doing is I'm moving that attachment up so that I can do tricep extensions right after. With these, you want to ensure that your elbows stay fixed to your side so they're not moving up and down with the cable machine. They are staying by my side and I'm hitting full extension at the bottom of the movement. So since these are antagonist muscles, bicep curls, when we're curled all the way in, is going to be their highest point of contraction. For extensions, arm coming fully straight is its fullest form of contraction. So what I'm doing here is holding 5 seconds at that bottom range before coming up and finishing. Next, I'm doing a superset for just the hip flexors. This is completely optional, not something that you guys have to do, but something I want to work through because I know my hip flexors could use some added strength. So what I'm doing here is I put a resistance band around my midfoot. This is a really light resistance. You don't need to add a ton, but if your hip flexors are stronger than mine, you can obviously add more resistance here. And then what you want to do is you want to think about marching. So you're going to be keeping that foot flexed and then driving that knee towards hip height or just driving it up. You can also do these standing if you want to progress them. You can also do them with a kettlebell around the midfoot if bands are too easy for you or if you don't have access to them. And these start to really get those hip flexors working. You will feel a burn in that hip. Then I went straight into these up and overs where you are just going to be maintaining a straight leg, flexing the foot, and then bringing that foot over, up and over something. It can be a kettlebell, it can be a water bottle, it can be something shorter, and you will feel, again, that hip flexor work. Hello you guys and happy Friday. Today's workout we are going to be doing a glute focused leg day today. In terms of glutes, I kind of just mixed up what I've been doing, came up with a little plan, and I'm excited to take you guys through the last resistance training workout of the week. We are starting off with sumo deadlifts. I'm sorry this angle sucks and I only got one clip, but essentially you want to assume a wide stance. Arms are going to come down in between the legs, gripping the bar about shoulder width apart, and then you are just going to be pulling that barbell up, extending fully to hit a full hip extension at the top of the movement, and then coming back down. I did 3 sets of 5 here, and I'll be working on, increasing my volume as I go, as I haven't done these in a little while in my training program. Then we're moving into some single leg RDLs. My gym has this fun machine that is awesome for these, but you guys can absolutely do these with a dumbbell or with a kettlebell. You just will need a little bit more stabilization. If you don't have great balance, I would hold on to something like a pole, a machine to just ensure that you're stable. It's not cheating. I'd rather you have better stabilization than be moving all around and not able to get that full stretch through that working leg that's on the ground. So the goal with these is going to be to lift that back foot up and then bring torso down, hinging back at those hips, getting a nice full stretch on that hamstring of the stabilizing leg here. This again is a progression of just a traditional RDL, so you guys can stick to those. You can do B stance RDLs to do something super similar. I just found myself going through the motions a bit with normal RDLs, so I wanted to add some different variations that really required focus, more stabilization with the balancing. And again, with these, you don't have to go super heavy. It's more about getting quality reps with good balance and good tempo. So then we're going into some B stance hip thrusts here. I used a dumbbell and then I ended up switching it out to use a medicine ball to make it easier to stabilize on this one side here. So for positioning, what I have is I have my right foot fully down, driving through the heel of it. And then as you guys can see on my left foot, I just have my heel down for stabilization, but I'm not pushing or driving through that foot or that glute. So we're working that right glute, doing 8 reps, and then on that last rep, I'm doing a 10-second isometric hold to really get that glute fired, working. And again, we just want to kind of work through stabilization as much as we can with isometrics. So that is our B stance hip thrusts, obviously doing them on both sides. Then we're going into back extensions, which I also added an isometric hold with. So as you guys can see, I kind of try to add a hold or something at the end of every movement just to make them a little bit more difficult. Here, what I'm doing is I have my feet pointed slightly outwards, slight bend in the knee, and then a slight round in my upper back so that when I am coming down, I have a little bit more bias towards those glutes, but it's completely normal to feel the low back working a bit as well as those hamstrings stretching just due to the positioning. I hold a kettlebell here to add a little extra load, but you guys are welcome to do these body weight and just hold on with your arms crossed across your chest. You want to come up to full hip extension. You don't want to overextend, just getting to that top of the movement. Then we are finishing off with a completely new movement. This was actually my first time trying it ever. I used to do a movement very, very similar to this when I first started my fitness journey, but now I'm doing it with more intention and understanding of what it does. So contrary to how it may look, the leg that is working is actually the stabilizing leg. So in this, the leg that is working is the foot that is planted into the ground. We are working the glute medius of that leg. The glute medius plays a great role in stabilization. So as you guys can see, that leg is going to be stabilizing the entire movement, and that's why it's going to be the one that is working super hard. This is kind of a variant of a Captain Morgan, which is another kind of exercise you can do. So the goal here is that you are kind of thrusting sideways. So think about a hip thrust, how you're kind of coming up and then coming back down. You're doing the same, but you're doing it laterally. So you can see that right hip is kind of dipping in towards the pole before pressing back out against that plate, which is going to really toast that glute medius and force it to stabilize even further. And I'm going for 12 to 15 reps here, which was killer to end the day. All right, you guys, that is it for the resistance training part of my week. I am trying to be more active on my weekends. I don't like to go to the gym on the weekends, but I do want to try to be a tiny bit more active than just laying around. So on Saturdays, I've been trying to commit myself to doing a solid core class. So you're on a reformer, I think it's called a Sweatlana, and it is so hard. It kicks my butt so hard. But it's one thing that I've been enjoying for accountability, doing something different and really getting more of that deep core work, which I know I need. So that has been going very well and something that is nice to not have to plan for myself and just be able to show up and be led and guided by somebody else and also be around other people doing the same thing. So that's what I do on Saturdays, and then on Sundays, my mom and I always try to do a morning hot girl walk. So trying to get some form of movement every single day, as you guys could tell by this video, because before I was really just doing 3 to 4 to 5 strength training days and then nothing on the other days, and now I kind of just want to be like nice and balanced and get moving in any way I can. So that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it's different, but for me, that's really what I needed to get back in the groove of things. You don't have to do full workouts that are the same as me. Obviously, this is very much catered towards me and my lifestyle and my goals, but you guys can copy, little exercises here and there, get some form tips. If you want to copy the whole thing, feel free, but make sure to analyze, your own goals, your schedule, and try to make something that works for you. If you guys want any support when it comes to programming, or you feel like you need full-on support to kind of get yourself back into your journey or starting your journey, and you guys would like a coach, I do one-on-one coaching as well as personalized programs to always have an option for you guys. So hope you guys enjoy. If you guys are interested in coaching, it's down below, all the information. Be sure to follow me on Instagram for more consistent content when it comes to the gym, but I am trying to be back on my YouTube grind. So subscribe for sure, give me a like and a comment to let me know what kind of videos you guys prefer, what you're looking for, any questions, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Love you so much.